back to another mock draft episode of All Things Football. Today we have mock draft 2.0, where we're going to draft the whole first round a second time now. Post free agency, post some recent signings, post pro days. A lot of action has been going on, so looking forward to see how we can adjust our first mock draft that we did here in round one to our 2.0 version here. Chase, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, right? This is about where you want to do your mock drafts. Pro days are over. You've had plenty of time to eval your players. We're a couple weeks out from the draft itself. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I like it. It'll be interesting to see kind of what we come up with based off our first mock. If you haven't seen that yet, go ahead and check that out. The link is down here in the description. So check out mock draft 1.0 here before you check out 2.0, kind of see where we differ, kind of what happens. So the difference here with this one is so the first mock, Chase did odds, I did evens. Today we're swapping it. I got odds, Chase gets even. So we'll kind of see how we differ there with those picks and see kind of how the board falls and kind of how our evaluations have changed. I know my evaluations on some players have changed. Chase, I'm sure yours has changed as well. So super excited to see it. So without further ado, let's go and get started. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. We're going ahead and get started here. So, alrighty. So listen, I want it on record that Bryce Young is QB1 in this draft for me. And I think he is the pick here that the Panthers should take. It seems the overall consensus has been CJ Stroud. Now I see it's kind of shifting towards Bryce Young. If it's me and if I'm in this spot, I'm taking Bryce Young. Okay, I haven't heard or seen any argument when we're talking about CJ Young over Bryce Young saying that CJ Stroud is the better quarterback of the two. All I've heard about is he's the safe pick. You know, his size is good, all this different stuff. Obviously, he's talented, but I've never heard anybody make the claim that CJ Stroud is better than Bryce Young. So I'm not looking to play it safe. I'm looking to win championships. And for that, I need the best player available, the best quarterback. And to me, that's Bryce Young. I'm picking him here.
Yep, I can't argue with that. I think if you're just going off the Georgia game, CJ Stroud, if you just take that one game, he looked like the best quarterback entering this draft. But then you go back and watch the whole season, and he doesn't look like a bad quarterback by any means, but not up to the par where he may be worthy of the first round. You can't argue with that Bryce Young take. So that means I'm on the clock now as the Texans GM. And I'm going to go for a little loop here. And I'm saying if I'm the Texans, we're a rebuilding franchise. We really don't have all the pieces together. Why get a quarterback that has a very kind of low ceiling and Stroud? I'm going Anthony Richardson. I'm taking the swing. I'm going with my QB1.
Big.
The 49ers, where DeMeco Ryans came from, wanted to get a mobile guy anyway. They traded 3 firsts for Trey Lance. I think the same could be said with Anthony Richardson, only more potential than Lance, right? Lance only had a season. Richardson had a season. He balled out better than Lance. I say the Texans take the potential home run pick.
That's a big swing there at number 2. A big swing at number 2. But honestly, that would fall great here for maybe some of these other teams that are looking for quarterbacks here. So Arizona Cardinals here. So this draft, right, we're not doing any trades. I do think that this is a potential trade pick here. I would anticipate the Cardinals trading out, but in this case, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep them here. And so for me, this is still just one of those things where it's kind of like a no-brainer. The Cardinals are weak everywhere, but especially on the defense after losing. J.J. Watt retires. They've had some people leave in free agency. So to get Will Anderson Jr. here, the best edge rusher here in this class, is a no-brainer. You got to do it here. If you're going to stay here at pick 3, this is the pick.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I think that's a lock. If the Cardinals are there at 3, it's Anderson. So now we've got the Colts, and they could go a lot of ways, right? They kind of need some help everywhere. They got a blue chip player. I've seen a lot of that thrown around with Jalen Carter, but I am going with the quarterback that we mocked number 1 overall in our first one, CJ Stroud.
Yeah, if this would fall perfectly here for the Colts, if this is the draft board here up to when they get picked, and so definitely a no-brainer there. And so here, pick number 5 for the Seattle Seahawks. Not necessarily a slide, but the Jalen Carter slide stops here. The Seahawks are in need of help on the defensive side. Jalen Carter is, a top 2 defensive player here in this draft. I know there's been a lot of off-season issues there, and we'll see how that all plays out leading up to it. But as of right now, with everything, I feel comfortable with how the Seahawks have been able to draft players, develop players, and I think Pete Carroll, in his defensive scheme, could let Jalen Carter really feed there. You can have a strong defensive tackle there in the NFC West, which is one of the best divisions in all of football.
Yeah, and a great spot for him to land. Right, he has off the field issues, but what a better person to get him back online than Pete Carroll, right? He takes in a lot of those guys that have a little bit of question marks around their name and kind of just keeps them on the straight and narrow. So we're here with the Lions, and I'm going with the last consensus blue chip defensive player, Devon Witherspoon from the Fighting Illini, Illinois. I think he's a very Dan Campbell guy, right? Bite your kneecap off. He plays the run very well. He likes to press the wide receivers. I think he is just the pick here. I think that's what they have to do. Will Levis is not a huge upgrade over their quarterback right now, Goff. So I think they just kind of ride out the picks.
I like it. So I'm going to go cornerback here. I'm going to take cornerback Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon here for the Las Vegas Raiders. This is just simple, and the fact is that the Raiders' defense is trash, but especially their defensive backs, right? They do have some promising, players up front. They have Max Crosby, they have Chandler Jones, so they do have, pass rush there available, good solid players. But what they lack is their defensive backs. It's completely decimated. The talent is just not there. They need to get better. Christian Gonzalez, day one starter, likely defensive rookie of the year candidate. I know your quarterback one of the class, and so
yes,
my cornerback too. So we're both very high on him, and so this is just a pick here. People might be tempted maybe to go with Will Levis here, but they've locked in with Jimmy G at least for the next 3 years. They aren't in need of a quarterback here. So unless they just love one of these quarterbacks, right? They decide to trade up for one, or they take Will Levis, or whoever it is that falls to them here. They could do that, but to be able to pass up on a player like Christian Gonzalez when that's the most position in need is just foolish. So the Raiders will probably do it. But in this case, we're taking Christian Gonzalez here for the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a great pick, right? The only cornerback that's worth a hoot is Nate Hobbs on that team, and he's more of a slot guy anyway, slot cornerback, not an outside that Chris Gonzalez could be. I really like that pick. But now with the Falcons on the clock, right? I'm going to vote to give Desmond Ritter a chance, and I'm going with the 6'7" defensive end from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson. They need a lot of help on that defensive front, and they've been burned in the past by taking very small, kind of agile guys in Vic Beasley and Takk McKinley. So I think this time they just go with the guy who we projected to be a top 5 pick in our last mock draft. I'm going with him at number 8.
I like it. So I like that pick. The Falcons were second to last in sacks last year, so they definitely need help rushing the passer, and so Tyree Wilson can definitely get out of it. I'm staying here in the pass rusher. So the Bears here are an interesting situation. They can go tackle, they can go pass rusher here. But I just think when I think of Bears, I think of defense. And so for me, I'm going to get a guy that can get after the quarterback here on the defensive line. And so I'm going Lucas Van Ness here to the Chicago Bears at pick number 9.
Gosh, man, that's a good player they're getting there. It doesn't have to move that far from Iowa City to Chicago. So right now we've got the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is a pretty hard pick, but I think they are going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. Give them that final final offensive piece. Perfect slot guy. They already got 2 guys to play the X and Y in their offense with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. That's who that is. And so I think this would just complete that offensive line. And with that other pick, they can address their other kind of areas of needs that they don't really have. So I think that would be a perfect pairing with Fields, or Hurts would just be able to pass that ball all over the place.
That's a big time get right there. It'll be interesting to see if that's really how they go. But I mean, I like to pick that. To me though, that's kind of more of one of those luxury picks.
Yeah.
Getting wide receiver there. I think there are probably better positions of need there, but still would be very deadly in Jalen Hurts to run up the scoreboard every single Sunday. So that would be fun, a high flying offense for sure. So here now, pick number 11. So it's interesting here that we haven't had a offensive lineman go yet. So it'll be interesting. So interesting there. So here we're going to take an offensive lineman here, and we're going to take Paris Johnson Jr. here out of Ohio State. So Titans have a lot of work they need to do on both sides of the ball, but specifically on the offensive line. Taylor Lewan is gone, so they have an opening there. The offensive line just hasn't been very good. The offensive line is super important there, and it just hasn't been there the past couple of seasons. And so to get my top tackle here in the draft. And so the reason I was for more clarity why I'm taking Paris Johnson Jr. One, he's my tackle, but two, NFL scouts are saying that Peter Skoronski, even though he played tackle, he's injuring his tackle, is most likely going to play guard.
Yep.
In his NFL career. So the Titans are in need of a tackle, not a guard, and so we're going Paris Johnson Jr. here for the Titans.
Yep. I like that pick a lot. I think he is very, very talented. He moved at his pro day like a tight end. He even made a CJ Stroud, stop throwing and watch him a little bit move. He was crazy. So I've got the Texans back on the clock. There's a lot of ways I could go about this. We can get Quentin Johnston, a guy for Anthony Richardson to throw to, but I think I'm going with Brian Branch, safety from Alabama. I think he is that perfect defensive piece that DeMeco Ryans can just move around wherever he goes. He can rush the passer if needs to. He can watch the middle of the field. He can play slot cornerback. He can play outside cornerback. He's a safety. He can play safety, obviously. I think it'll be interesting in the hands of that very talented defensive mind of DeMeco.
I mean, yeah, so that'd be interesting. They have some good pieces there. Jimmy Ward, I believe, came over. They have Devin Singletary from last year. So a strong back end shaping up. And Brian Branch, I know if you've seen any of our mock drafts, we were extremely high on Brian Branch. So to him to go into a good solid defensive scheme like that with DeMeco Ryans could be very beneficial for him to kind of break out even sooner than maybe some other people are having a breakout. So interesting spot there as a Texans just have a lot of holes to fill, so they plug one there with Brian Branch. So we've got the Jets here on pick number 13, and so this is going here. What I have here for the Jets is I'm actually pairing them up with another defensive lineman here, and so I'm going to go with Kalijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh. Going to pair him up with next to Quinnen Williams. They don't really have a clear-cut starter next to him, so trying to bulk up that defensive line. I think their defense is going to be their strong point. I'm assuming the Aaron Rodgers trade is going to go through, and so that's going to take care of the offensive deficiencies that they've been having. They won a lot of their games last season due to their defense, and so to bulk up there on the defensive line, I think is crucial here. And so being able to get this is one of the evaluations. If you look at the first mock draft, we had him late, almost kept falling out of the first round, and here he goes in the top 15. So my evaluation on him has changed quite a bit, actually, kind of looking at that. And so I like this pick here as the Jets, as Robert Saleh tries to build up that defense to compete in a very competitive division. I think might be the best division, especially with Aaron Rodgers in the AFC.
Yeah, no, I agree. That'd be a deadly front with Kancey and Williams coming at you. Williams already was a beast last year. Kind of tore up the Packers when they came into Lambeau. Was kind of the single reason they won that game. So that would be just a crazy defensive tackle duo with them too. So now we've got the Jets division rivals, the Patriots, on the clock. There's a lot of things I could do here. Again, I can give Mac his true wide receiver one in Quentin Johnston. But I'm going with a very Bill Belichick move. I'm drafting Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, a tight end, just a very, I think, a Bill Belichick guy, straight up, straight and narrow, can block, can catch. Bill loves to pick tight ends. I think he's drafted like 4 of them in the last 2 years or something like that, 3 years maybe. So yeah, I know they already have Hunter Henry, but I think Michael Mayer can just add to that even more.
Wow, that's it. I mean, that's classic Bill Belichick, where he picks some random position or some random player to go in there. Somebody that Michael Myers is a beast, and people might have him ranked that high, but Bill Belichick is very weird like that, where he'll take people that really nobody has ranked in round 1 or that high and go after and get them. So definitely an odd pick there for the Patriots, but definitely one that could be successful to give Max some help. Now we have your Green Bay Packers here. So this is going to be interesting here. So with the Packers, you know, draft a wide receiver here, something they never did with Aaron Rodgers to give help with Jordan Love. Because who are the Packers receivers right now? I mean, Alan Lazard just left. Uh, Randall Cobb looks like he's done. I mean, they just don't have very good depth at all in the receiver position
Yeah.
as far as weapon goes. So who are they gonna throw to? Christian Watson, obviously, coming off a breakout, end of the season, where he finally kind of figured it out and turned on the Jets. And so, a lot of different things here that the Packers could do. But I am going to give them wide receiver. They're going to break the mold. They're going to break what they haven't done before, and I'm going to give them Quentin Johnston, wide receiver out of TCU.
Yeah, I don't hate that. He's a very Packer guy. They like to draft big athletes, and Quentin Johnson hits both of those categories, right? Maybe not the most fluent at the catch point or something like this, but it's funny that the Packers would draft, kind of a spit in the face of Rodgers, right? You want to go in your darkness and not talk to us? We'll give Jordan Love a first round wide receiver. So I love it. So now we've got the Washington Commanders, and this team is very tricky because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're signing Carson Wentz, they're dropping Carson Wentz, they're uh, going through ownership change. Maybe they signed Eric Bieniemy as assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, and so you give him a tool, but they already kind of have tools. They're going to run Sam Howell as that quarterback, but I think they're going with inside offensive lineman Osiris Torrance. Washington's kind of notorious for bulking up on the lines, the defense and offensive line, and I think he is the best one in this class. I know Peter Skronsky could play anywhere, but I think they get a guy that's absolutely going to be a guard, and they're going to stick with him.
I like the pick. I think that's the pick that they kind of got to get that. So now we've got the Steelers here on the clock. Now this is gonna be interesting pick here because the way the board has fallen. I know if you've seen our Steelers mock draft that Joey Porter Jr. is still there, but that would be a very good pick, a very good pairing. But I think they could still get value with later on at the cornerback position. I think the biggest need here is going to be the offensive tackle position that they have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going ahead and look at here the offensive tackles here that we have, and I'm going to give Anton Harris to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I like that. I'm really high on Anton Harris. He's just a big mountain of a man. I really like Mr. Anton out of Oklahoma. All right, now we've got the Lions back on the clock after getting their blue chip cornerback Devon Witherspoon. I am going to give them a offensive help in Dalton Kincaid, someone to replace Hawkinson. Dan Campbell is a tight end himself. I think he'll be able to unlock the receiving threat that Kincaid poses. Give Jared Goff a safety blanket there and can stretch the field on the rack ability. So I think that's just a walk in the park. They were able to get a top tight end at 18 after trading away probably a top 10 tight end in Hawkinson.
Yeah, to their division rivals, no less. That was a weird trade. So here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here the Skoronski slide is going to stop. The Bucks need to rebuild the offensive line. They've had some people that have left in free agencies of years past. They've had some injuries there. They're not really sure what they're doing at the quarterback position, but I'm not sold on Will Levis here for them. They're not sold on Kyle Trask. They have Baker Mayfield as the option, but defense needs help too. So there's a lot of different things, but I think shoring up the offensive line here with Skoronski here is going to be important for them, and so his slide is going to stop here, and he's going to go to Tampa.
Yeah, and Tampa's got a great offensive line, but they can put him anywhere, right? If he doesn't make it as a tackle, they can move him inside. If he does make it as a tackle, then they got a tackle, right? They're kind of an offensive line. They can kind of fit him in where needed. They can try him at tackle. If that doesn't work, no loss, right? Move him to guard. I like that pick. But here is where the Will Levis slide stops.
Whoa.
The Seattle Seahawks were able to get one of the best players in this draft in Jalen Carter early, and still at pick 20, a couple $1 million later, they were able to get their QB potentially of the future, right? They got Geno for 3 more years. Will Levis doesn't have to play a snap this year. and they can work on his mechanics, try to get him, send him to that Josh Allen school of accuracy, right? Get him comfortable in the pocket where he kind of collapsed during this season. So I think this is where Will Levis stops. Big slide from we had him at 7 last mock we did, now all the way to 20. But I think it's a better situation for him. So
I like it. So um, interesting taking a pick. I mean, on Will Levis. So of all the spots to go to, though, I think that would be one of the better spots. Kind of for the reasons that you mentioned. I don't think Will Levis is going to be able to go to any NFL offense and start, day one, and so be able to sit and kind of mature a bit and everything. I think it's going to be important for him. So that'd be a good fit for him. If he was to go in the first round. Now we have the Los Angeles Chargers here on the clock. A lot of different ways that they can go here to where the board has fallen here. But I think for me, I think it's pretty simple here. The Chargers, they're gonna need wide receiver help. We talked about this a lot. They have the most expensive wide receiver room with between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Both of them get injured, especially Keenan Allen, just not being able to stay on the field, and it costs them games. And so they need to get younger, cheaper, and more depth at that position. And so to me, I think this is a no brainer. They're going to get Zay Flowers here, which has slowly for me worked up to be my wide receiver 2 here in this draft class. So I'm very high on Zay Flowers. That he's fallen this far, um, would be a steal here for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit, right? Someone to stretch the floor. They don't really have that. Mike Williams is supposed to be that, never really lived up to it. Keenan probably runs the same 40 I do at this point in time. So I like the Zay Flowers pick there. Now we've got the Baltimore Ravens. And they need wide receiver help just as bad as the Chargers, right? They really don't have anyone. They have Bateman, who looked like a stud but can't stay healthy. They just did a big signing with Odell coming over. But we're going to ignore the wide receivers, and we are going Deonte Banks, cornerback from Maryland. I like him a lot. I think he's my cornerback 3 in this draft class. He's just slowly moving up the ranks for me. He performed at this pro day, performed at the combine. So just kind of get a stud there to put opposite side of Humphreys and get that defense that they're known for, right? That's really their bread and butter, is that Ravens defense in that division that really doesn't have a clear-cut winner besides the Bengals, right? They have to play Joey Bosa. They're going to have to play Deshaun Watson. Maybe Kenny Pickett pans out, so they need someone who can cover those wide receivers.
I like it. And so here we have the Minnesota Vikings here on the clock. So a lot of different ways that they can go. But the way that this board has fallen, the Minnesota Vikings need to get better on defense. 100% need to get better on defense. The defense was just so bad last year. Their offense bailed them out a lot of those close games. Their offense was able to bail them out. Justin Jefferson was able to make those incredible catches. But the defense needs to get better. And so losing Patrick Peterson here, a veteran to bring in a young guy there with Brian Flores now as a defensive coordinator, and Joey Porter Jr. is going to go to the Minnesota Vikings to help strengthen a very, very poor defense in Minnesota.
Yeah, I like that pick, right? Porter's a great coverage guy, great man guy. Brian Flores runs a lot of man. He runs a lot of cornerback blitzes that Joey Porter can help out on. So that's a nice slot for Joey Porter to fall. Now we got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Jaguars they have a lot of slots, right? They've got a lot of just average players balling out for them, right? Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram's balling out. They've got a first-round running back, so you can stay away from kind of the offensive, going defensive help, going Nolan Smith from Georgia. They just lost Arden Key, which played kind of a big part in pressures and sacks for them last year. I think Nolan Smith is just a more explosive, maybe less refined in physical strength, but more explosive athlete than Arden Key was, and I think he'll fit into that role just perfectly.
Yeah, a speedy light guy there off the edge. I think is a good pickup for the Jaguars, and somebody who know firsthand how important it is to get to the quarterback. I mean, they went to Arrowhead and lost. They couldn't get after Mahomes when it mattered, I mean, they got to him once and injured his
Yeah,
ankle, and just couldn't get it done. He was able to go in there on one ankle and win the whole thing. So, definitely getting a player of need there on defensive side of the ball to help, because you're going to have to go through those quarterbacks. And so a great fit there.
exactly.
Here on the Giants, so the Giants, they've committed to Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones is the quarterback of the future, whether whether we like it or not. I'm not big on Daniel Jones,
Yeah, I'm
but
not either.
something that Daniel Jones hasn't had is legitimate wide receiver weapons, and so we're going to change that here. So as they've committed there to Daniel Jones, they're going to double down on that and then get him a true. I wouldn't say wide receiver one, but a true weapon at a wide receiver with the ability to become wide receiver one. They're going to take Jordan Addison here for the Giants.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good place, right? He's going to get a lot of targets because he's really not fighting for him. Maybe with Waller a little bit and Saquon, but good place for him to go. And that's about his skill level. Dictates about that area of the clock. So now we're going to the Cowboys division, we're going to the Cowboys, the Giants division rival, and this is a Jerry Jones pick. If I've ever seen a Jerry Jones pick, we're going to stay in state and go to running back Bijan Robinson from Texas.
Yep,
There's not much I can say about this. This is Jerry Jones doing Jerry Jones things. Great
yeah,
player, blue chip.
Yeah, I think that's the pick, and especially after Zeke left there. There's a hole there. I mean I don't expect Bijan to fall this far actually. So I mean I think the Cowboys really want him. They're gonna have to go up and get him. I don't know if they would trade up to draft a running back, but Jerry Jones has done some crazy things before, and so I wouldn't put it past him. But I think as far as a fit of watching Bijan dominate in the league and be successful, I think the Cowboys are one of the top three teams I'd like to see him at to see him be successful.
Absolutely.
Okay, and now we have the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills here are going to be interesting because they can do a lot of different things here. But for me, I'm going to stick here with the defense. They brought in Von Miller, and it looked like it was going to be the AFC was the Bills to lose. And then obviously with the injury to Von Miller, they just couldn't kind of put it together at the end, and they kind of fizzled out. Defense kind of lost its luster. The offense kind of underperformed throughout the end stretch of the season. And so to be able to strengthen that defense, add depth and get in there. And so I'm going to go with edge rusher here, Myles Murphy out of Clemson to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Myles Murphy. I wasn't, and then the more I look at him, the more he's growing on me. He reminds me a lot of a raw Rashawn Gary coming out of college. So that'd be a good fit for him. Now we've got the Bengals, the team that beat the Bills in the playoffs, and I am going to do something that the Bengals just refuse to do, is get protection for Joe Burrow. I am giving them Broderick Jones from Georgia as an offensive tackle, just kind of helping. They tried to pay all these guys to come over, really wasn't great last year. They brought Orlando Brown over to play left tackle. They want to move their former first-round pick Jonah Williams to right tackle. He doesn't want to. He requested a trade. I think they just don't even worry about Jonah Williams because he doesn't look too great anyway, and they just bring in another tackle to protect Joey B.
Yeah, I mean they have to. They just have to. That's been the reason why they've lost. The last two playoff games was either depleted offensive line or they just didn't have the talent. They tried to fix it last year, and they might have done it, but injuries hit them and just they couldn't come in with that depth and fill the void there for the playoff stretch. And so to get any tackle in there, one of these top tier tackles, just to provide that depth, even if they're not starting, is just crucial for them. And so it they haven't been able to do it. I just don't know how much longer they can go without doing it. And so I think this is the draft to do it, especially picking here at pick 28. You can get quality players this late in the draft at the offensive tackle position this year, and you got to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Got to do it. So now we have the New Orleans Saints, courtesy of the Denver Broncos, up here at pick number 29. And so the Saints here, the Saints need to get better on defense as well. They've lost a lot of players on the defensive line, both interior and edge. So we're going to bulk up the interior here. We're going to take Brian Breesy out of Clemson.
Yeah, I figured that was the guy to go. That's who I wanted next pick. He is he it's kind of, right after the season, he was a top 10 guy, kind of started to slide, had a decent pro day, not the greatest combine. So I'll be surprised if he actually stays around this area and doesn't rise up a couple other draft boards, but he'll be a quality player in the NFL. So now we've got the Super Bowl losers in Philadelphia Eagles, and I am giving them, I just had it, where'd it go? I'm giving them some inside line help. I'm going Steve Avila from TCU. I'm normally not a fan of drafting inside line in the first round, but at pick 30, with that's probably your biggest need, meaning that Isaac Semalu just left. Right, he was your starter for all games last year. Jason Kelsey looks like he's on the back end of his season, so you won't have him around. Cam Jurgens is there, but he's mostly a center. So why don't you just grab a guy that you can plug and play right into that offensive line?
No, I like it. So definitely adding, kind of doing what the Eagles do, where they kind of draft today for tomorrow. And Steve Avila is a quality player there. He's got experience, a center and guard there, and so to fill the interior offensive line, work behind those players that they have there with the offensive line coach, and obviously be mentored by the likes of Jason Kelsey. Can't complain if you're Steve Avila there. So great pick there as they do that. And so now we have the last pick of the draft here, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, who will be picking in Kansas City. Electric.
It's going to be electric.
And so there's a lot of different ways that can go here. Obviously, defense, they could go defense. They can get the best pass rusher available. We can go offense. They can look at offensive line, maybe a receiver here. A lot of different ways here they can go. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of marinated in it and just really just try to think about the playoffs here in the future and what's gonna help them continue to be successful. And for me, we're taking my boy Darnell Wright, right tackle out of Tennessee. A true right tackle, which is the position of need that the Chiefs need most desperately on the offensive line. Be able to put him in there. I think he could be a day one starter. Obviously, you can talk about coming in, adding competition to the line. We have some other players there. Lucas Niang could be there. He's kind of potentially the starter as of right now. But to get a guy like Darnell Wright in there would just be huge. Sure up, the bookend tackles. We have an amazing interior offensive line. We would have the best offensive line in the NFL, hands down. I no debate if that happened. And so pick up some position of values there in the later rounds. There's going to be some edge rushers still available. It's a deep class. They have some picks that they can use. They can maneuver up the board if needed to grab a guy. And so I'm not too worried about that. But I think showing up that protection, the offensive line there for Patrick Mahomes is going to be the utmost important. Obviously, you can think maybe go defense there because the defense hasn't been as good. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, he's proven you don't need it to be. So we can get good positions of value later on in the draft and have, just a sure thing there at right tackle. Super pumped if that's the pick there for the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I think that would be phenomenal. Just kind of the same things we said about the Bengals, right? The only thing that can beat the Chiefs is Pat Mahomes not being their quarterback. So I think protecting him should be priority number one. And you'll have to go through a lot of great quarterbacks and a lot of great pass rushers, right? In this draft, the Bills are getting a pass rusher. The Bengals have a couple guys that rush the passer pretty well, right? The Dolphins have that dynamic pass rush. The Jags grabbed the pass rusher in this draft and already had that great defensive line. So you're going to need to protect yourself if you want to see you back at the Super Bowl.
And Darnell Wright's gone up against the best too. I mean, you saw the reps that he did against Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama in that game this past season. He's proven himself. That's the best rusher in this class. And so he's definitely more than proven himself. So super amped if that's the pick. But take a look here at our first round, just some post-draft thoughts from you, Chase. What are you seeing here that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, I really like the Kalijah Kancey to the Jets pick that we had at 13. that is a phenomenal pairing with him and Williams. I can't get over how monster that defensive front would be, and that's we talked about it when you drafted him, but we stopped. Last time we had him almost sliding out of the first round. This time we've got him in the top 15. I think that shows his value that he's put in over this the pro day combine stuff like that. And another guy that is Bryce Young. Right when we did our first mock, we had CJ Stout. It was an easy running the draft card. That's who they wanted to draft. The Carolina Panthers, even if they want CJ Stout, they're doing a good job of getting a smokescreen over who they're wanting. Right, there could be any of those two. I've seen Anthony Richardson has a visit scheduled to go visit the Panthers. So the Panthers doing a really good job at kind of concealing who they want, and trying to get the Texans to bait up and come up and grab the guy they want. So what do you think about our mock?
Yeah, so for me looking here, I think I think the most interesting pick I think that we had here for me looking at it was the Michael Mayer to the Patriots pick. That was to me more one of those kind of like luxury picks to where I think there's a lot more positions of need that the Patriots have. But you decided to go Michael Mayer, but he's a playmaker. I mean, he's gonna make plays. Mac Jones does need help. He'll have an actual offensive coordinator this season, and we see how elite tight ends can change the way you play the game. And you look at Kelsey, you look at Kittle. So it's not too far out of the question. It's just an interesting pick that out of some of the other players that we've had still available, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like the likes of Joey Porter was still available there at that point. I think the cornerbacks or defensive backs would probably be the most position of need, or even a tackle. And so it's interesting that the tight end was the pick there at 14 for me.
Yeah, I was in my thinking. I was thinking that Bill loves to draft tight ends, and also he's trying to recreate. He grabbed that kind of stationary, white, not very strong arm quarterback. Trying to make Mac out to be Tom Brady, and he had the most success when Tom was throwing to Gronk. And I think Michael Myers, not Gronk like for sure, but definitely a game changer at tight end. So I think he'll just see that matchup and go straight to that.
Well, there you have it, folks. This was our All Things Football Mock Draft 2.0. Let us know in the comments your thoughts, where we went wrong, where we went right. Maybe you really like some picks. Maybe you really don't like some picks. Maybe we had a player really fall on our draft board that you have ranked much higher. Let us go ahead and hear it. We love hearing your thoughts and your comments about what you think we're doing here. So definitely go ahead and drop those thoughts in the comments. Keep looking at our other mock drafts that we have available. We've got Packers, Chiefs, Steelers, Cowboys, Eagles. A lot of individual mocks out. We're coming out with some more mocks, individual team mocks here coming up next week. And obviously, as we get closer to the draft, the Monday before the draft, we'll have our final official mock draft 3.0 about what we think is going to happen as we approach the draft here. So lots of kind of review and marinate as we go throughout the rest, but keep liking, keep commenting on the videos. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to keep get notified whenever we come out with some new content. Really appreciate the love we've had so far. Super excited to keep bringing you some football content with just two dudes, two cousins who love talking football, and we get to share that with you. So appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time here on All Things Football.